Welcome everybody. Welcome to today's video. I thought that I would go live again. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about breastfeeding myths and kind of like give you the fact versus the what you might hear, those myths that you might hear. So I thought that we would go through. I just kind of am looking online, and then through looking online, I'm going to tell you the myth or things that you might hear, and then we're going to talk about the truth, whether it's the truth or whether it is a myth, and kind of like go based on that. So one thing I have to say is, like, many times when we talk to people about breastfeeding, you get so many different views on things. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this. Sometimes I will hear moms say some of these things. And if I'm watching it on TV, I don't mind if a mom chooses to not breastfeed. Like that's their choice. They have that choice. But the thing that bothers me is when it might be based on a myth, or if the reason that they give is not a fact, it's more of a myth. So for instance, if a mom says, nobody knows for sure whether breastfeeding is best for babies, that is, some will say, well, I wasn't breastfed, or I didn't breastfeed and my kids turned out fine. And I know that is excuse me, the case for a lot of people, because breastfeeding, it wasn't popular in the past. It's becoming more common and more popular, but in the past it was not. And so I can kind of see the reasoning, like see why a mom would say that, because she really, you don't want to look at your baby. Your babies are fine, whether they're breastfed or not. They're going to be okay. But let's just talk about a little bit about, these myths. And I'm just going to go through, I don't know how many I'll cover, but I thought we would just go through some. And then maybe at some point, once I've been on for a while, we'll stop and maybe talk more in another video. So let's start with that one. You might hear that I didn't breastfeed, my babies turned out fine. And the truth is, as we learn more and more about breastfeeding, we learn that breastfeeding gives your baby the best start. Now, in the past, when a mom chose formula, it could be for a number of reasons. So for a mom, if she chose formula due to medical reasons, or due to, some reason that was beyond her control, we're not going to talk about that type of formula feeding. We're going to talk about moms who want to breastfeed, they're able to breastfeed, or maybe there are some outside influences, such as these myths, that they base whether they're going to breastfeed on or not. And so I kind of want to address those. If you choose not to breastfeed, that's okay. If you choose to formula feed, that's fine. If you feel that's what's best for your family and your baby, that's fine. Like, this is not to make you feel bad. This is just to debunk myths, to let moms know what the truth of it is, and then you make the decision whether you want to breastfeed or not. It is not for anybody to make you feel bad about. But we do want to know the truth. And we hear so many different things. For instance, a lot of times you'll hear moms talk about how after having babies and breastfeeding, their breasts sag. And so because of that, maybe they want to do, they don't want to breastfeed because they're afraid that their breasts will sag, or the breasts will never be the same after breastfeeding. For some women, that is true. For some women, after having babies, their breasts sag, the breasts are never the same again. It's not about whether you breastfed or not. It's more that it's pregnancy. Pregnancy is what does it. Not pregnancy alone. It's actually two factors. It's pregnancy and genetics. So if you have in your genetics very good, strong, what's the word they use for your skin, that it doesn't sag. So somebody who ages well, whose skin doesn't droop or sag, that comes with genetics. It's not something that just all of us can get. Not all of us can get that. And the same with breasts. They could sag after pregnancy, and it's not breastfeeding, it's pregnancy that will stretch them and cause them to sag if you don't have good, what is the word? I have it like on the tip of my, it's like collagen, I believe is what it is. So it's collagen that keeps your skin tight. And if your skin sags, that again, it's genetics. It doesn't have anything to do with how long you breastfed, how many times you breastfed. It depends on genetics, and then it is due to pregnancy. Those two things. When you get old, you're either going to sag or not sag, but most women will sag at some point in time. And again, it doesn't matter whether you breastfed or pregnant even. But for moms who worry about, will my breast sag because I breastfeed? No. If they're going to sag, they're going to sag eventually in time, but it's pregnancy that will induce that, not breastfeeding. So if you think that it's breastfeeding, you might as well breastfeed, because if they're going to sag, they're going to sag anyway because you got pregnant, and they're going to get big and they're going to stretch, and that's just normal. So that is just a myth that is not on my list, but I did kind of cover because it is something I hear a lot, and it is a misconception. It is not true. Your breasts do not sag because you breastfeed. So the one that I mentioned was that nobody knows for sure whether breastfeeding is best for babies. But with all that we have learned over the past few years, there's been a lot of studies done on it. We know more and more the long-term and the short-term benefits of breastfeeding. And there is no doubt whatsoever that breast milk provides the right nutrition for your baby at every stage of their infancy. Okay, so from the time that you breastfeed, whether it be, from day 1 to 1 year old, or day 1 to 2 years old, or maybe you do day 1 to 6 months or 3 months or 5, whatever it is, every stage of your baby's life, breast milk is of the first, I'm going to say the first year of life, because that's really the recommendation, at least 1 year. You can go to 2 or 3, but most people, the idea of 2 to 3 years is crazy. And I'm not going to say that you have to breastfeed for that long, but the recommendation is 6 months to 1 year. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So when I say that it is the right nutrition at every stage, I mean that first year. Okay, we're going to talk about that first year. So that is something that you might hear. Another thing that you might hear is that breastfeeding spoils your baby if you do it too long. So this is, again, all in the same myth. Of the myth itself was, we don't know whether breastfeeding babies really is what's the word? What was it again? Is best for babies. So another common thing that you'll hear under that myth is that breastfeeding spoils your baby if you breastfeed too long. And so it's not true. It is true that young babies are dependent on you for their needs. That's normal, no matter what we do. But it doesn't spoil our baby or make them more dependent on you. In fact, it just forms healthy bonds. You should continue as long as your baby and you both want it. And again, that's a decision for you to make. But children who breastfeed longer continue to get that protective breast milk, and they are, it just kind of gives them that protection they need for a longer period of time, however long you would go. Another thing you might hear is that formula is as good as breast milk. Again, I just have to say that although I am not against formula, I understand the uses for it. I understand why a mom would choose to use formula. I did use formula with my kids. You know, there were reasons why. So I'm not here bashing moms who choose formula. But if I hear a mom say that formula is as good as breast milk, I have to say that that's not the truth. Even choosing it myself, I have to say that that is not true. Breast milk is higher. It is better. It is, there's no equal to it. And the reason, you know, there's nothing in life that you can't say that there's something that's of greater value. I guess, how should I put that? For instance, if we go to the store and we're looking at snacks, we know that there are snacks that are better for you and snacks that are not so great for you. There are snacks that are healthy and there are snacks that are healthier. So to say that formula is as good as breast milk, it's just not true. Breast milk is the best, and then, you know, formula is sufficient. It provides what the baby needs. It's going to take care of the baby's needs, but it is not the best choice. It's not as good as breast milk. And again, you go to a grocery store and you're choosing something. We don't always choose the best. Like, sometimes we can't afford the best. Sometimes our kids don't like the best. Whatever it is, it doesn't mean that there isn't something, you know, what we choose. We don't want to say that it's necessarily the best. So I do have a problem when I hear people say formula is as good as breast milk, because it's not true. Whether we choose it or not, I'm not going to say that it's not better for your family and the situations that you have, but to say that it's better or as good as formula is not, it's just not. So let's just read the science of what their comment is. It's, your breast milk is custom made for your baby. It changes to meet the needs of your baby. So from day 1 to 3, it's different. Day 3 to 5, it changes, it becomes different. At 6 months, it changes again. And then in between times, if the baby gets sick, it changes. It builds antibodies and antiviruses, anti-allergens, all kinds of things, especially during illnesses. You're not going to see these ingredients in formula. Your milk also has hormones that helps the baby grow. It's easy to digest. It has more vitamins and minerals. It's also free, it's fresh, and it's safe. So those are just some truths to that myth, that it is as good, that formula is as good as breast milk. Now we're going to look at another myth, which is that breastfeeding works for some people, but not for everyone. So you're going to hear people say, you might hear somebody say that breastfeeding either works or it doesn't, that you'll know in the first day or two whether you can do it. Breastfeeding, it's a learned thing, and it's learned through practice. It's like riding a bike. I've said this many times. Nobody, or very rarely, does someone get on a bike and just ride. Normally, it takes time, it takes practice. Sometimes you fall a few times, sometimes you fall a lot. It depends on the person, it depends on, you know, how long it takes them to get comfortable and to figure it out. And that's the same with breastfeeding. There are some cases where a baby latches, it's great, and the whole time you breastfeed, it's just a breeze. But in a lot of cases, that is not true. It's going to take a while for you to feel comfortable, for you to understand and know your baby, for you to know how your breast works, to feel comfortable that you're providing everything that your baby needs. It's going to take time for you to feel confident in yourself and in your breast and in your milk. And what usually gives us confidence in ourselves is seeing things play back. So as we see our baby growing and they're getting the nutrients they need and they're thriving, that's going to make us feel, yeah, my milk is doing it. When we see them consistently using they're going through tons of diapers, again, that says, oh, I'm doing it. I'm providing. So that, that is a case. Another is that some babies are born early, and so they're not able to breastfeed right away. And so sometimes it can take a little while. So you wouldn't want to base it on, well, my baby wasn't able to breastfeed, so we're not going to be able to breastfeed. Maybe they were born early, they were in the hospital, they couldn't suck. The other thing is babies have to learn how to suck, swallow, and breathe at the same time. And so this takes a while. Some babies, again, they can get it right away, and some it takes practice. So that myth is definitely not true. In order to breastfeed successfully, we need the right information, we need support, and we need to be firm in, just not giving up. We don't want to give up because we definitely, want to keep trying. If your mother had trouble breastfeeding, so will you. You may hear that, but the ability to breastfeed does not run in families. Again, it's something that you have to practice, and you and your baby will learn and figure things out. And again, I just have to say, I'm not saying that a mom who chooses to formula feed for a reason that maybe she feels like her and baby are just not getting it. Maybe there's something going on with the nipples or the anatomy of the baby's mouth, whatever it is, that can cause some issues, and a mom may choose not to do, to breastfeed for this reason. A mom makes the choice that's best for her and her family, and that's really the way that, I'm not going to go beyond. That's a mom's choice. What we're talking about is truths, facts against myths, not against choices, not against a choice a mom makes, but against myths, okay? And reasons why a mom may choose not to could be based on a myth, and that's why I want to make this video. If breastfeeding hurts, you should switch to formula. That's another thing that you might hear, but as much as breastfeeding should not be painful, it is common to have some tenderness, and that will go away as your body adjusts, as the baby grows and learns how to properly breastfeed. There are some reasons why breastfeeding might hurt, and so those are things, that's why it's important to have the right information, to have people there to support you and help you so that if the baby's latching properly. If your breasts when your milk really increases and changes by day 3 to 5, your breasts get very full, and this can make it difficult for the baby to latch. And when this happens, you can become sore because the baby was not latching correctly during that day or two that you were uncomfortable, and now your nipples may be sore, maybe cracked, maybe bleeding. So you have to get past that period. A lot of times having a breastfeeding peer counselor or CLC or IBCLC observe a feeding, they can kind of help you and kind of get you through that tough time, whatever you might have to do, whether it's through a nipple shield, through creams, whatever, they can help with that. Another thing you might hear is that small breasts or large breasts make it hard to breastfeed. And not to be surprised if it doesn't work for you. All breasts, no matter what their sizes are great for breastfeeding. That's what their sole purpose is for. All of them can make plenty of milk, whether they're very small or very large. And regardless of the size, you can breastfeed successfully, no matter the size of your breasts or the size of your nipples. And again, you can talk with a breastfeeding counselor just to help you find positions that work great for you and your baby. So you might hear that that you can't breastfeed if you have had surgery on your breasts. Usually that isn't true. There are some cases where you may not be able to, or you may not be able to make enough milk due to maybe the way that the surgery was conducted. And so if you've had surgery, it'd be good to talk with a IBCLC and to see if there's things, extra help that you can get if you start to have problems. But I would not cross that bridge till you got there. If you have the baby and then you're not producing enough milk, then it would be something, but I wouldn't worry about it before the fact because you may not have any issue at all. You can't breastfeed if you're having twins. Yes, your body makes as much milk as you need depending on the demand. So the more that the babies breastfeed, the more milk that you'll make. Now, whether it's easy or not is a different story, and you can usually look up information on what moms have done to make breastfeeding a little bit easier if they have multiples. It's not worth it if you're going back to work. That's a big one. That's a big one. And again, this is a decision for you to make as a mother with your own children, because it is hard. And although employers are legally required to give you that time to pump when you're at work, it does take planning. It does take time, and you have to make adjustments and preparations, and you have to have a good support system of people who are willing to help you and make sure that the baby gets the breast milk, and just being willing to work with you on that. It is worth it though. I have breastfed, I have stopped breastfeeding because I worked, and I have also breastfed while I worked. And so I know the differences between the two, and breastfeeding while working was a lot of work. It did take time and adjustments and things that, it was not easy, but it was so worth it for me. I know it's what I wanted to do. The other times that I didn't do it, I didn't want to. I didn't want to take that time. I thought I could do it. I thought I could continue to breastfeed even though I was working, and I just never was able to. But with my last, I said, this is really what I want to do. I want to breastfeed as long as possible. And so I'm going to continue. And I did. And like I said, it was a lot of work, and you have to be prepared, but it can be done. Okay, and we're talking about different myths. I do have a lot of videos on my channel that you can go check out, and you will find that a lot of this that I'm talking about, I have a video specific for that. So you can go and look at those specific. All right, let's see what else. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Those are kind of, I think, the main ones that I'm seeing. I don't know if you guys have any myths or things that you've heard that's your question. So that is something that I would ask that you guys do, to leave in the description or to leave in a comment below. Anything that you've heard that you want to know, is this true or is it fiction? So that would be what I would ask of you guys, is after you watch the video to go to the comment section and put things that you've either heard that you want to know whether it's true or not, or things that things that are myths that are myths and that you've learned what the truth is, and put those below just so we can share that with each other. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit long, but it is live, so those tend to be a little bit longer because they're unedited. But I will put in the description some links that you can go check out to read more about the myths and the truths behind some of those myths and where they come from, maybe even. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are notified when I put out videos. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.